Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast.
He says they would. If Charlie turned heel on Israel, they would have someone pow him at an open air event, and they have some idiot groiper with a genetically anomalous issue there to be the patsy fall guy. Part of why you never make the deal with the devil in the first place. I want you to notice the date. This was the same day, so this was an immediate response to Harrison's tweet. It's not like it was later. And this got 3.6 million impressions. This is extremely crazy for so many reasons because Harrison's tweet was already wild, but you took it to a level that's so specific and granular that if I'm being transparent with you, man, you got to explain this. Welcome back to another episode of Didi Got a Podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Didi. I appreciate you all for tuning in as always. What you're about to see in today's video is going to be a snippet or a clip from an interview that I conducted just a day ago from a guy that essentially, I don't want to say predicted, foreshadowed down to the T what exactly happened, what later happen to Charlie Kirk. But I would also like to announce that I have officially created a clips channel for Didi Got a Podcast. It's called Didi Got Clips. You can find the link to the channel in the description. You can also find the link in the description to the video or the full interview that I did with the gentleman that we will be talking to in today's video. So with that, please hit the like button on the way in. And here's the clip. Harrison Smith, who I believe in the past worked for InfoWars with A. Jones. I don't know if he still works there. My understanding, he left at one point. Maybe he's still there. Where he said, I'm not going to name names, but I was told by someone close to Charlie Kirk that Charlie thinks that one foreign country will unalive him if he turns against him. When I showed this to her, as a lot of you all already know, her face went pale white. She was like, what's this? And I was like, this is the tweet I was talking about. How could some people have foreknowledge? This is the very tweet that your coworker being Gary Melton, or your buddy, Gary Melton, this is the very thing that he spoke about. How is it that he would know that? She had no answer. She was like, well, where's the proof that who's his source? And I'm like, well, yeah, I would love it if he revealed his source. It is a bit suspicious and weird that he didn't, but that defeats the purpose. Well, as crazy as this tweet is, there was another person that actually responded to this tweet. And I actually saw the tweet months ago. But before I show you all the tweet, I want to bring that person onto the show and introduce himself first before I show you all the incredibly accurate tweet that he put out in response to this one. And we're going to sort of have a dialogue about that. And so with that, let me do it like this. Knock this down. Is it Tommy?
That's right.
Tommy, how's it going, man?
It's going well. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well. So if you can just, because this is our first time meeting, I don't know anything about you actually.
Sure.
Can you just give us a little bit of background on who you are, what you do, if you have a connection to Harrison? I see that you interviewed Ryan Mata.
Yeah. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yep.
I am an independent comedian, writer, and private headhunter, recruiter, and have been doing that work since 2017, 2018. I did interview Ryan Mata recently. Since 2018, I'd also had an on and again, off again podcast I called the Borum Forum, a spinoff of my last name, where I interviewed people like Juanita Broderick and, like you saw more recently, Ryan Mata. Maybe a year and a half ago, I interviewed Ron Coleman about the rise of anti-Semitism online, just to give you a perspective of the kind of different people as they come up in the news, people I'd reached out to speak with. So I saw Harrison Smith's post and you saw my response. I don't know if you put it up on screen, but maybe you just want to read it out and have people see it there first.
Let me go ahead and show everybody what you said in response. So in response to the tweet that I just showed you all, where about maybe 3 weeks before Charlie was quote unquote allegedly taken out on September the 10th, Harrison Smith puts out this tweet that essentially says that he was told by someone, I guess around Charlie, that Charlie fears that if he speaks out or if he turns on Israel, they'll unalive him. Well, this was the response that Tommy gave. He says they would. If Charlie turned heel on Israel, they would have someone pow him at an open air event, and they have some idiot groiper with a genetically anomalous issue there to be the patsy fall guy. Part of why you never make the deal with the devil in the first place. I want you to notice the date. This was the same day, so this was an immediate response to Harrison's tweet. It's not like it was later. And this got 3.6 million impressions. this is extremely crazy for so many reasons, because Harrison's tweet was already wild, but you took it to a level that's so specific and granular that if I'm being transparent with you, man, you got to explain this. You have to explain this one, even down to the fact that you said open air event. So
Yeah.
First, back up. So you saw the tweet. Your first thoughts?
My first thought was exactly that first line. Yeah, they would, right? Because his post again was Charlie thinks if he turns against Israel, they will kill him. So my gut instinct 100% was they would. And then it just occurred to me, and I can go into a bunch of details and we can talk for hours off and online if you want to about how it was that I wrote that and instantly, and how it was that I saw that in my mind's eye as being the reality that would come if he turned heel on Israel.
And I need you to respond, man, because I need you to explain what, because there's people in the comments saying,
well, there's
so
a bunch of things.
Tommy
That's what I'm saying to you. That's what I've seen. I've had people say, one, it's not a special thing that you said that. Two, everyone was saying that would happen. And three, I guess I gave them the idea, so I must have been in on it. I've seen it all. So I'm prefacing what we talk about for however long with this. I have a bunch of theories. I have a bunch of different ideas. There's not one thing that made me, think that was going to happen, other than I know a lot about Israel. I've studied, I've watched, I've seen how they treat people in the news and how they treat people who they perceive to be an asset, who then they lose control of, and how that can become much more of a liability to them than someone who is always a foil or always a heel. Someone who's always been anti-Israel isn't as nearly a big a threat as someone who was once pro-Israel, who then turns the other cheek and decides to, turn a new page. And very publicly, if you're Charlie Kirk, you're leading an organization where you're every day changing the hearts and minds of people who are listening to you speak. He can't go out for years from 2020 through 2023 and say, we have to support Israel because of these reasons. Have a couple videos go viral of kids saying, Charlie, and again, this was really inarticulate of the guy, but give him credit. He said, Charlie, Israel was behind 9/11. Yep. And Charlie scoffed and goes, were they really? And he goes, yeah, you have to look into it. Well, that was like almost 2 years ago. Charlie had a turning of the page and a change of heart since those clips were going viral. So one of the reasons I thought Israel would absolutely kill Charlie Kirk if he was turning heel, and not do it publicly on the street in a car where he has an explosion or a car accident that kills him on the highway with his friends, which is how they can get it done. No, they would do it publicly. They would have it be a public show, a spectacle. They couldn't afford, this is just my rationale. And some of this is, thinking in hindsight, why would Israel want to kill Charlie Kirk and no one else necessarily, Tucker Carlson or someone else? They're not doing public speaking engagements where people are doing live Q&A. And when you look at Charlie Kirk clips, virtually all of them, but for a few, were him interacting with young people. Those were the kind of clips that Ben Shapiro would kill for, pun intended. And so when you look at Charlie Kirk, if you can imagine this, you had clips of Charlie Kirk defending Israel to kids on campus, and you saw that one go viral of the guy saying Israel was behind 9/11.
Yeah.
Put yourself in BB's shoes. Can you imagine going to war with Iran and forcing Americans to go to war with Iran if there are clips of Charlie Kirk going viral on college campuses all through 2025 and into this year, 2026, of him agreeing with the kids saying, you're right, we shouldn't be involved? Because the next step is a kid saying to Charlie, hey, when you're of age, and if you ever run for president, Charlie, would you promise now to never go to war on behalf of another country? And if the moment he says yes, that becomes a viral clip. So Israel, think about like the opportunity cost. If from September 2025 on, they continue to see not just that Charlie's kind of leaning away from them, but that the trajectory of his going away from them is more and more damage over time, then they have to get rid of him now. And so when I see he is feeling that Israel will kill him, that's confirming my suspicions that I had for weeks and maybe months. Because we saw for the spring and through the summer, Charlie Kirk had told people like Megyn Kelly, I'm being smeared as an anti-Semite for simply questioning Israel, something that we have done for years. So if you're someone like me and you question why in 2011, I'm begging with my godmother in Florida, I'm asking her, why is it that we're giving $85 million a week to Israel? And she's saying, you sound like a Jew hater. And I'm clocking this going, I can see the labeling before it even occurs. So now 15 years later, you were still having the same conversations publicly now, where if you question Israel, you're called a Jew hater. Whether or not you do or don't like Jews, you're now labeled that way. It got to the point where Charlie was earning that label for, he thought, earnestly trying to maintain his credibility and integrity publicly by criticizing Israel. See, I think an aside here, privately, he may still have totally supported it, but publicly, he has to maintain credibility. And so he has to go publicly and say, you're right, we should question these things. He goes on Patrick Bet David and says, he's been flying around in helicopters in Israel for years. It takes 45 minutes to get across the country. Why did it take them 6 hours on that day? He wants answers. Laying out a logical question for them was a liability. And for him to do it was more damage than it was worth to allow him to live. So I thought, again, if Charlie feels that way and he's telling people privately, hey, I think if I say anything more, Israel's going to kill me. And that person hears that and goes and tells Harrison, I take that two ways. One, maybe Charlie told that source, you need to go and let some people know in the media as an anonymous source that I am fearing for my life and that Israel is going to kill me. I've said these things. I can't take it back. The clips are going viral. I have people that are donors to TPUSA all over my phone. They're blowing me up. Bill Hackman wants me to get to the Hamptons. It's not going well. If he tells someone like Andrew Colvett, I'm going to put it in a text message and I'm going to tell you privately, and I need you to go and tell a couple people in the news. I need you to go tell Harrison. I need you to go tell Candace. I need you to go tell everybody else and leak it to these people. Maybe that's one reason that Harrison says, I'm not giving up the source, because it gives away the person who may be trying to help from the inside. The same way that Candace for a long time said, I'm not going to give away Andrew Colvett until he gives himself away. Now Andrew Colvett's in a position where he's saving his own skin, saying, no, it was Joe Ken. So you can kind of see where I thought this isn't just Harrison Smith getting a tip and running out to be first. This is like a
signal call. I've
got a message, but I can't verbalize it. I'm going to hand it off to you. You hand it off to them, and then it gets read, and no one can blame me as the messenger. Because that's what Charlie Kirk was doing. I think he was tossing pigeons.
My first question to you was, I have so many questions, man. So my first question to you was going to be, who do you think that source, that TPUSA source is, or that the person that was in the orbit of Charlie Kirk? And my first guess, I think the most obvious one to me, would have been Andrew Colvett. And the reasoning is because sort of this Andrew Colvett, Candace Owens dynamic is a bit weird to me, because obviously Candace appears to be over here. Andrew Colvett appears to be over here. Yet Candace at the very beginning said that Andrew Colvett was the one that was telling her things. He was the one that told her, lay low. You and Tucker Carlson are next. What does that mean? Where would you get that information from? Tyler Robinson? You don't know Tyler Robinson, right? So what would make you think that them two in specific, like those two specifically, would be next?
To that point, not to interrupt you, but I just would say, I would think that. I think posted publicly, I've said that. So coming from him, it's different. I give you that. Like, that's odd for him to say, lay low, you're next. That means something totally different than some random on the internet who says, if they can take Charlie, they're going to look at them next. Because I think I have said something like that. Tucker's probably a target. I know Candace is one. I think Tyler Boyer has been outed as a liar by Andrew Colvett, because I think Boyer and Colvett both were in on this grift, this fraud. And I'm talking about the financials within TPUSA. Right. And so when Charlie's taken out politically, they now know the guy who was their protector on the fraud is now gone, and their fraud is now the very rope they're being hung out with by the people who are now going to control. So if you can imagine, again, like the movie version of this, the funders, the donors who once just had Charlie by the balls, now they have Tyler by the balls, and Andrew by the balls, and Blake Neff by the balls. And whatever personal, leniency or generous, looking the other way that Charlie would do for these guys, these new owners don't. So some of the odd behavior, this is just my conjecture. This is just how I, as a, half crazy person, look at this. I see some of their behavior on these streams, like where Blake Neff the other day says, we have that video, but you crazy people just won't give it a rest. So we'll never release the video.
Stupid, the dumbest reason in the world.
So that gives me the sense that, like, they're not confident. They're in a corner. They're backed in and they're being defensive. We didn't put them in a corner. We're just asking for them to be honest. So if they can't be honest and they are signaling to me like they're not in control 100%. Now that doesn't give them any kind of out. I'm not being sympathetic to that at all. Like, they should come out for it. And if telling the truth made their head explode, I want them to live stream it so we know the truth and prove to the world, because otherwise you're telling me like Israel's got a gun to my back, but I can't even tell you the truth. And that's why. And I'm telling people to just prove it.
I believe that they're afraid for their life. I've said that multiple times. I do believe, I know a lot of people's first sort of intuition is to just say that they're complicit. I get it. I totally understand it. I don't think that's the case for all of them. Like Blake Neff in particular, I'm going to tell you my theory with Blake Neff. And everything I'm about to say is alleged. None of this is considered an absolute fact. Yes, I want to state that for the record. This is my perception of Blake Neff. Tommy, I believe that Blake Neff literally has no clue what's going on. I believe that Blake Neff has noticed a lot of the same things that we've noticed. In fact, I believe that he's noticed additional things because he's there. And I think he's heard things and seen things that are like, that's interesting. Oh, and now he has come to accept that the fear of what may have truly happened to Charlie is probably too great. So therefore, I'm going to go in protection mode. I'm going to protect Erica, even though I really knew her. He admitted that himself. I'm going to protect TPUSA, and I'm going to go on these very unconvincing rants, doing these live streams about conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists and why they just won't accept the narrative because it's just too simple. And my friend passed away when he is in the dark when it comes to a lot of things as well. And I think he's fearful. Andrew Kovac, I think, knows more. That's my theory.
Okay, well, I agree 100% that Andrew Kovac knows more. Just looking at the two of them, I mean, there's a brains and then there's the guy who's supposed to look like the brain in front of the computer, right? It's the wizard behind the... Anyway, so I think Blake is meant to look like, because he totally does, I think he's meant to look like the guy who is, the not to be crass, but like the dork behind the screen who's going to be, the producer / co-host / the technicality guy who's going to research things on the fly. And then Andrew Kovac is supposed to be the charmer, and Charlie Kirk is like the leader, the brave. And so this is how I think they're supposed to stage it. Like they're not characters and they're not acting, but they are cast in these kinds of archetypes. And
to almost appear as more authentic.
Sorry, again?
To almost appear more authentic, because if you have people who are at the forefront who truly don't know what happened, then maybe it buys you credit. It buys you some sort of authenticity, and people can look and say, well, I mean, they do really seem like they care, but it seems to have had the opposite effect, though. It seems that we can see through them. We can still see through them. Like something's off. Something is inauthentic here. There's incomplete truths. There's half truths that they're sharing. They're giving dumb reasons like, I'm not going to share the video of freaking Charlie Kirk saying that Erica Kirk should be CEO. When you can, bro, that won't hurt. That would only help you.
Yeah, who's buying that?
Like, who's buying that? Like, and the last thing I want to say just real fast is, and to make it even more weird, is Erica Kirk at MFest shared the audio of Charlie Kirk speaking at the very beginning, where he states that if something were to happen to me, first of all, I agree with Candace. The audio sounds recorded. I said early on that I felt like it was AI because they chose not to show any sort of depiction of Charlie actually saying that. My prediction is that I'm predicting. I believe that audio, we're listening to maybe 2 or 3 different audios. Part of the audio is actually Charlie talking. I think part of it is AI. And I believe what they did was they edited it together, perfected it as close as they could, and then they threw an instrumental over it so that it would be much more difficult to tell the difference in the audio.
Yeah, pipe it in, layer it in with music, and make sure that it's, when you compress it and you splice it all together, it sounds like it was recorded on a mic somewhere. Sure.
Bingo.
That audio doesn't do a lot for me. I think people are being distracted with like, well, who's taking over? And she stood to make more. Like, I'm thinking more about the fact that they rigged a way to set up a murder and have it appear as though someone else did the thing. And I watched a couple of your streams, actually, the recent ones. I watched the interview that you did, or the debate, if you want to call it that, with the gal. I didn't realize that she was the same lady from the clip where Paramount Tactical is referring to some, and they're looking at the document and it's dated this year. And she is like, that's weird. I don't know what that is. So I saw that debate that you did with her. There are a few things that she just does not get, doesn't understand. She thinks the charging document statements are facts and that they are evidence themselves. They're not. It's like the sheriff giving a summary of how he would characterize the case. That's what that is. So I watched that. I watched your other video on this, the other one that you did, I think the day before or maybe the day after. So I'm fascinated by how they were able to set Tyler James Robinson to appear to be the shooter. And I wonder if you have some thoughts on that. I wonder if you want to talk about that at all, because I have a theory on how it was that he came to be on the campus and how it was that they came to have his gun.
Whoa, you already losing me. You believe that he was on the campus?
Well, I'm going to explain. So I started out by telling you, like, I have a bunch of different theories, and so I'm not married to any one of them. Okay. But when I'm thinking these things through, I want to run out every ground ball. I want to think about every possible option and go, okay, I'm putting a bias aside. I'm putting my own perspective and my own belief about what I think is true aside. Could this be? How could it be based on the facts that we are given? And what would need to be true for this to also be? And then does it logically make sense? Because I find that a lot of the truth is exactly within those thought patterns. And when I think Israel would kill Charlie Kirk, that's how it comes to be that, well, of course, Charlie does speaking engagements. They're going to do it at an open air event. They're going to want as many people to see it as possible, because how dare he go publicly on all these different shows after they've propped him up privately for a decade. Now he's going to go out and publicly criticize them. How dare he? So that was their number one. They're like, they're not going to do it, privately. They're not going to have him be poisoned or, shot in an alley. It's going to be a public thing.